In discussion, item A.
The first item we have is the October 2021 monthly financial report, and Stephanie Harris, the Assistant Finance Director, is going to give that report tonight.
Good evening. The financials were distributed to the council, department heads, and uploaded to the city's website on November 16th. Didn't know if anybody had any questions after their review, any questions, concerns, things I need to look into.
Anybody have any questions?
I'll just hit some highlights.
Okay, go ahead.
Two main. Sales tax receipts are up. I think that's pretty impressive because last year sales taxes were up as well. And we didn't know if that was going to continue or if that was just an effect of COVID, but they remain headed in the upward direction, which is very positive. And then just an FYI, the ARPA funding that we received is currently in the General Capital Fund. It will be redistributed once there's an item on your agenda tonight for final approval, and assuming that passes, it will get distributed to the appropriate funds at that time. And then, as always, when I distribute these to you guys monthly, if you have questions, ask them at that time is always great in case it takes some review and further digging into the details. Sometimes I can't always answer something. I try to make good notes as I go through them, but if you have a question when you see them, please let us know. We would love to hear from you.
Are utility franchise taxes really neutral?
They are. They caught up.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen them. I think I've always seen them negative, so.
Yeah, they caught up this. We have several that pay quarterly, so kind of skews that a bit.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item B, police vehicle purchase.
Tonight on the agenda that we have the purchase of 4 police vehicles. If you recall, there's been some line issues with Ford and other manufacturers. The line was actually shut down for a period of time. We did take possession of 8 police interceptor vehicles last year, and those delays, we held off on the purchase from this year's budget, and we actually got word from the manufacturer if we don't place that order, then we will be left behind, and so we're putting this in right now. There's a possibility the money will have to be rolled by the end of the year if Ford doesn't start producing those vehicles, and then they are rolling them off the lot and storing them in lots to then pick up the microchips. Once those get installed, then they deliver them. So, but this purchase is for 4 vehicles totaling $135,696.
Any questions? Thank you. Item C, license plate reader.
In the current budget, there was a allocation.
That's weird. How did that do that? You try that again? Yeah.
In this current budget, there was an allocation for license plate readers to be placed on vehicles. And we had about $22,000 identified out of the public safety sales tax for the police department for this purchase. We found out that the item that we were intending to purchase, there was some problems with the implementation of it, and the system didn't look robust enough. And so we had some staff that ended up finding out that the city of Raymore has actually purchased and installed stationary license plate readers at several locations in their city, most notably in and around Sam's Club, Target, and Sam's Club, Lowe's, and Walmart. And so we're looking to do the same type of thing. We're looking with that type of money that we have in our current budget, we could actually select 8 locations in Belton, coming off of 49 highway at various locations, 163rd, 58, maybe even west city limits, and even cover some of the areas around our retail areas where we would actually see or get alerted whether or not a vehicle was either stolen and was coming into our city, And we'd also be alerted if it was leaving our city, and it'd actually give our officers a hand up in regards to responding to crime. And it sounds like a great system, and it's very robust. We would be leasing this, and so there's an ongoing cost for the lease, and it's about the same amount of money as the purchase of this system.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Chief, pardon me, I'm not opposed to it. Mine's more of a policy question. How long do you keep the data off those readers?
I could look more specifically into it, but I think what this system is, it's not a system that captures all the data. It is only, if we had a situation like, for instance, we had a fugitive that we were looking for, it would alert us to it and keep that data, but it would actually erase the data that was not used or flagged.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You have any more? All right, seeing none. Item D.
So tonight I want to, and I don't know why now it's not working. Looks like I have to get up. Tonight I want to talk about a couple different subjects for you. First one is winter weather operations, and that's basically our snow and ice removal program. I know a lot of you are going to your first winter being on city council, and you may or may not know what to expect from people when they call and what to expect from us as we do our jobs. And so this is kind of a brief overview, and I say brief, it's brief compared to the training that we gave our employees, but it comes in the same sort of vein. So I just want to let you know that our mission is to try to keep streets passable during storms, and then try to get things cleared up. We try to work on the highest priority streets and keep those going at all times. Our supervisors are responsible for certain activities as we go through and do our work. They're the ones who are ensuring all our policies are adhered to. They're making sure we update everybody who needs information about what's going on. They handle our complaints. They review the mapping and all our procedures. They make sure all our equipment's properly running. They coordinate the shifts, monitor the forecast, notify the employees, and maintain a list of damaged mailboxes and yards and things like that. So there's a lot going on during a snow fight for the supervisor to take care of. Our operators, they need to be available when we're predicting a storm. Now, there's times we're not predicting a storm and something comes. We understand that. But they need to understand they can be called at any time. So a lot of our drivers, they need to be ready, and they have to be here and available to do it. We let them know the maximum speed that we plow at is 25 miles an hour. People think we're driving around at 55 miles an hour. That's only the state goes faster. They have what we call high-speed plows. We do not have that. We have more plows for more volume than speed. We remind them they have to wear the seatbelts at all times. They have to check their fluids, pressure, and make sure the truck is ready to go at the beginning of every one of their shifts. And we check every single shift to make sure the truck's still in alignment, because as you drive, they're rubbing on the ground. So when they hit something, a manhole or something, it shakes and jostles and things break. So we want to make sure all the lights are working, the plow and the blade and everything are still in good condition as they go to the next one. They're required to fuel the trucks at the end of every event and every shift change. They are to make sure that the spreader is full and ready to go, complete a walk-around inspection, and they also need to clear all the snow and ice off the vehicle. And so a lot of these things that we're saying is things that everybody should do when they're driving a car in the wintertime. They don't think about it. They get in their car, they run their windshield wipers, and they drive. But really, when you get out to drive, you should walk around your car, make sure all your headlights, your taillights, all your windows are clear so you can see as you go. And we always tell them to be aware of surroundings while plowing and spreading. They're required to slow down when they see a pedestrian. A lot of people think that we don't try to do this. There is a lot going on as someone is driving, but they're trying to slow down if they see a pedestrian on the side of the road, because we don't want to throw a large amount of snow into someone who's walking. They're supposed to report accidents as things happen, whether it's an accident they're involved in or if they see an accident. Make every effort not to block driveways or business entrance located at T intersections. We don't try to plow into people's driveways. And, but if we do see something where we're not able to plow, like a street's blocked because there's too many cars parked on it, they notify the supervisor. Our shifts are 12-hour shifts from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So at that time, one group about 30 minutes beforehand is coming in, and then that first 30 minutes they're going back out. So there's a time during that time period where you're not going to see our trucks out on the road. Our night shift people are sent home at 11 o'clock in the morning. They're supposed to get rest the rest of that day, and then they report back to work at 7 o'clock. Hours may vary a little bit because of when the snow comes. So if it's going to snow at 3 o'clock in the morning, the guys come in just slightly before 3 o'clock in the morning. And so we kind of watch the hours and shifts that they work, but it's a 7 to 7, 12-hour shift. If we're going to do a single shift, if it's something's just going to come through and just lay a little bit of snow and just leave one of those quick little storms, our transportation group, they handle this only, and they'll just run the one shift and be done with it. When it's going to go into multiple shifts, that's when we bring our water department engineering, and they will plow along with them. We utilize 13 trucks equipped with snow with plows and spreaders. There's one additional truck that has a plow only when it's available when needed. There are 10 snow routes, and each truck is assigned to each route. We have 3 different types of streets that we plow. It's been assigned as emergency snow routes, and you've seen those signs as you drive around town. It says emergency snow route, no parking. Priority routes, residential, and cul-de-sacs. So this is overall, when we look at our emergency and snow priority routes of where they're at. We're going to look a little closer here in a second at them. We also have our pre-treated routes, which are basically the same routes. And we pre-treat, and pre-treating means when we put salt brine down. So we take water, mix it with salt to 21%, and then we put that down. We put that down in advance of storms when a certain criteria is met. So these guys have a checklist, and it's a whole sheet full of things they've got to go through. Make sure the temperatures are right. Make sure the humidity is right. And we don't put it down if it's going to rain before a storm because it'll just be washed off. If it's going to freeze, get a really, really cold temperature, we won't put it down because it causes ice to form. So there's this very specific way we do it. But that salt brine that we put down, we turn the roads white, is breaking so the ice can't stick to it, and it breaks the bond in between the ice and the road. So it's easier to plow. A lot of people will see that go down. So if they don't think if they're kind of surprised if it's going to snow or not, all of a sudden they realize that, hey, it's about to snow because look, Public Works is putting salt brine down. We also have cul-de-sacs. There's 144 cul-de-sacs in town. And so we're going to talk about that here in a second. The cul-de-sacs are very, very difficult to plow. Snowing and plowing and spreading. We plow to the right, except in cul-de-sacs now. We're going to plow to the right. We never exceed 25 miles an hour. And we only spread salt at the end of a storm. Because if you think about it, we don't continuously treat roads. So if you think about the interstate, when MoDOT's out there plowing, they're plowing and throwing salt. But they're there so often, they can keep the roads wet. The problems with lower volume roads, if we get them wet with salt, they'll actually freeze back and turn back to ice. So we plow, plow, plow. And at the end, if the temperatures are right, we'll throw salt. You remember, regular salt is only good to 26 degrees. So when it's below 26 degrees, salt does not work very well. That's why we have to use additional types of chemicals. So if it keeps snowing throughout a shift, we're just going to keep plowing. We always turn our spreaders off when we come to intersections. You may see that. Some of our equipment has equipment in it that'll tell you it's coming to a stop, so it'll automatically shut off. Others will keep running, so they have to shut it off or there'll be a pile of salt there. We adjust our spreaders to be 200 pounds per lane mile. So if you're wondering how much salt that is, that means in every square foot going down the road, there'll be 2 granules of salt in it. That's it. And so in higher storms, we could go up to maybe 400, but generally, like the state spreads at 100 pounds per mile. It gives you an idea how much salt's actually going down. If you spread too much salt at once, you're just going to run through your salt pile, and you won't have enough salt to make it through the storm. And when we plow curb to curb, We don't plow against the curbs. We try to stay about a foot away. There's times they get up against the curb, but we try to stay a little bit away from the curbs. So when you see our trucks out plowing, the first pass, our trucks are about 6 feet wide, maybe just a little bit wider than that, but the blades are 9 feet wide. So when we're plowing, that blade sticks out across the center line. And so when you see a truck coming, it's always good to get away from the center line. They plow the first pass. The second pass, they come against the center line to plow back the other way. The third pass is going toward the curb, and the fourth pass will be the curb on the other side. All our trucks are equipped with GPS. We can see where they're at and keep track of what's been going on. We can see what's been missed and where we need to go. Our cul-de-sacs this year, we're going to do differently. Last year, we ended up not doing cul-de-sacs to the end of the storm. We get a lot of complaints. And we also plow to the right through cul-de-sacs. And that ended up plowing a lot of snow into driveways, because a lot of cul-de-sacs are all 100% driveways. And so what we're going to do this winter is we're going to plow to the left or drive backwards through the cul-de-sac. And we're going to plow all the snow to the middle. And that way, the snow is not in anybody's driveway. It's in the middle. Anybody can back out of their driveways, drive around the cul-de-sac. You just want to be able to drive through the middle. And that'll allow the driver to drive around the cul-de-sac and just get right back out. When we went in the cul-de-sacs and used to push 100% of the snow out during the storm, it would take up to an hour to push some of the cul-de-sacs out. And with 144 cul-de-sacs, it takes an enormous amount of time, and it slows us down. And then people are calling, how come you're not getting to my street? It's simply because we're in the cul-de-sacs. And there's a picture of all the cul-de-sacs. So you can see another reason we don't try to push them out is, where do you push the snow to? No matter where we try to push it, there's a mailbox, there is a driveway, there's something in the way. And when you take a 9-foot plow and you have those little spots, it's impossible not to put it in someone's driveway. This is another example of a knob. It's very hard to plow. Where do you put that snow? So we're going to put it in the middle. Another problem is parking on the roads. If people park in a cul-de-sac, some of them we can't even plow. We're just going to plow down and then plow back out. And so you may get a call, why did they just plow straight in and straight out? It's because if we run the situation with cars parked all the way around it, it's impossible to drive a truck and make a circle in the cul-de-sac. So our routes are broken in 10 different areas. I'm just going to go through them pretty rapidly. And you can see the places where we go. The red lines are the emergency and priority routes. The other ones are the residential routes. So everyone's got kind of a different group, a different flavor of what they have. The drivers get used to driving it. They're in a pattern as they go. And one of the things to remember, as we're starting off in a snowfall and it's still snowing, people go, you'll get a call, why haven't they come to my street yet? Well, there's a reason. They're making their way through this, and we don't stop and just jump to the person who calls. We just finish our path, and then when the storm's over, then we can go back and see if there's something that we missed. And this is just all of our different routes throughout town. Some of our routes have one truck and some have two. The trucks that have the 5 lanes, like 163rd Street, have an additional truck with it. So as they're plowing the main line, the small truck can go and get all the turn lanes and throw it to the middle. We have 2 trucks that have wings on them. So you have the plow that's on the front and then has a plow that's on the side. So they can basically plow a lane and a half width. In addition to plowing the roads, we also have to plow City Hall and City Hall Annex, the golf course, Fire Station 1 and 2, and the police station. And those are usually handled toward the end of the storm. We always tell them to make sure you have your map book with you and do a walk around. Call your supervisor if you hit a mailbox or broken a mailbox, and that will happen. As people's mailboxes get older and the weight of that snow hits it, they'll get knocked over. There's times there's yard damage. As you go, you can't tell where the edge is. You can get off into someone's yard. You'll see the dirt come up as you get off the road. And you just need to let them know whenever there's an accident. If it's light snow, you know these things, that when the wind will blow, it'll blow the snow off, but it leaves a little snow behind, and those are very slick conditions. When there's heavy slushy snow, it can also affect the cars you're driving because it becomes packed down. We tell our drivers to use gradual acceleration and to watch your steering and braking to minimize skids and turns. Other problems is reduced visibility. This is very important to our drivers. Some people like to drive very fast and very reduced visibility. We try to remind people when they see our flashers to be slow and be cautious. There's no need to pass us. And we always tell people to slow down and increase your following distance. Another problem that our drivers have is snow hypnosis. If you've ever driven a long time in a snowstorm, you get focused on the snow and all you see is the snow and you don't see the road in front of you. The other thing is you don't realize with our drivers is that we have flashing lights going. So as you're driving, the lights are flashing off the snow too. So that adds something else to the driver's vision as they go. An hour or two is not bad. 5 hours is not bad. 8 hours is not bad. Remember, they're out there for 12 hours. Black ice is another thing to look out for. That's when the temperature drops rapidly and the moisture just freezes and you can't see anything out there. We ask them these questions. What shouldn't you do if your car is equipped with anti-brake? Don't pump your brakes. What preventive action can you give to extra time? You know, you got to look ahead. What should you do for the best visibility? Make sure you use your low beams. And these are things that probably everybody should keep in their car. A snow shovel, spare fuses, warm gloves, flashlight batteries, triangle kit, first aid kit, fire extinguisher. We use radios, but people should have a phone with them. Is there any questions about snow removal?
I didn't see anything. What is the minimum we go out on? Is it 2 inches, 4 inches before we head out?
It's anything we can plow, basically.
Anything? And I noticed Kentucky didn't have, who takes care of Kentucky?
It's half and half.
Are we the north half?
No, it's east and west. But basically, Raymore's out there plowing it. So I'm not complaining right now.
Okay. I just didn't know who had to do that left turn thing. That'd be Raymore than what you're saying, so.
It's theirs.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah, a few people in Apple Valley have asked if the asphalt's going to be raised up to the edge of the curb before plowing starts, and if it isn't, if it have an effect on their new curbs.
Yes, I've talked to the contractor multiple times this week, and they said they should be out there, and they plan on paving 2 days this week and 1 day next week if the temperatures allow. But they plan on getting it done.
Okay, so you're responsible for holding off the snow then.
If it snows and they don't manage to get that on, we're gonna have to make sure that we get it plowed where we don't hit the curbs.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Anybody else? Item E, stormwater presentation.
So one of the things that we have to do annually for our stormwater permit is give this presentation to the council. And there are several different things we need to talk about and present to you. But we're going to start that we have to have a permit for stormwater. It may seem strange, but the water that falls from the sky ends up in our creeks and exits the city. We're responsible for the water quality that's in that water. And so as part of that, we get a permit from Missouri DNR, and they give us a permit based upon different goals that we have to have. They have to be measurable goals. They have milestones that we have to achieve, and we have to show that we're using BMPs. Our staff is responsible for this, and we're responsible for reporting back to Missouri DNR. If we don't do these things, we do get fined. We just received our rough draft of our comprehensive plan. Part of the comprehensive plan requires us to advise the council of what's in it, and we're going to need to start doing the things that are in it. We have to complete annual inspections, the city-owned and BMPs throughout the city. We need to do things like the stream cleanup. We need to do things like marking our storm inlet boxes, and we're going to have a public meeting on December 2nd, this Friday at noon. Now, the 6 things that are included on our permit are these items, and we're going to go through. They're called minimum control measures, Every city in Missouri is required to have these minimum control measures. We all basically have the same exact permit from the state. The first one is public education and outreach. We have to advise people of what are our goals, what are the things that we need to do for stormwater. These include homeowners and it includes contractors. So one of the things we're trying to do is develop different programs, whether it's online and people can see it, or when someone comes in for a business license, they can view this program to make sure that they know exactly what's required of them. They're specific, they target specific pollutants, and it's as simple as grass clippings, people putting leaves and things like that in inlet boxes. Those things are not allowed. They're actually called illicit discharges, and we need to have those things stopped. We visit with people who actually do these things and ask them to stop and sometimes clean them up. We also have to do other outreach education, and like we do with Stop to Stream, waste cleanup, household hazardous waste programs. All these things prevent people from taking something in their house and just throwing it in a creek. The second one is public participation. We have to do public meetings and get people involved in what it takes for stormwater management. And that's part of what we're going to be doing this next week. But we have to do education, and these things are included in our website. We have a requirement to track involvement and evaluate and improve the stormwater management program. One of the things we try to do is go meet with kids at school because they're usually eager to learn, but over the last couple of years, that's really become impossible to do. The next one is illicit discharge detection and elimination. The IDDE program is basically stormwater outfall monitoring. So the outfalls used to be where water would leave the city in a creek. Now the state has determined an outfall is any time where water leaves one property and goes into a creek. So like there could be an outfall at Target, there could be an outfall at all these different places where water is leaving people's parking lot. We're now required in a five-year permit to go through and look at 60% of the outfalls. But we have to actually go map them all, which has never been done. So we've been going out, walking the creeks, finding all these outfalls. We have to review them, look for people who have illicit discharges. So if someone runs a business and throws their box containers or their trash into the creek, that's an illicit discharge. These are things that we're looking for. And so we have to go through and look and find and track and report all these to Missouri DNR anytime that we find them. This is an extensive program. It requires us to walk every single creek in the city and mark every single outfall and then review every single outfall that's out there. Construction site runoff, stormwater runoff control. The city has ordinances requiring runoff control from construction sites. You see the silt fences, you see the different things, the BMPs that we have out there to prevent people from having dirt and soil leave the construction sites. That includes people who want to drive their trucks out of a construction zone and take mud down the street. These are things that we are trying to stop all the time. We require those things to be done, and the operators need to have the control measures in place for proper implementation during construction. We do go review them all and look at them all. All these programs have to be reviewed every single year. Post-construction stormwater development. This is getting into all those ponds that you see that are in subdivisions. For years, a lot of ponds were built and nobody's really monitoring. They're in a subdivision and no one's paying attention to them. We're going to go out and we have to look at them all, see what's going on with them. Anybody who's a developer coming in now who's going to build a pond, we require them to have a maintenance manual and tell us annually, this is how I'm maintaining the ponds and the things that are going on. But we have to track all the BMPs and tell what the compliance level of them are. The last one is pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations. One of the other things we have to do is we have to train our own staff every year, and then we have to review every one of our facilities to make sure that we don't have something that's violating our permit. This could be as simple as a can of paint that's got a loose top on it. It could be we left some salt out from outside of our building. Any of these different things, we have to look to make sure that we are abiding by our own permit. And so we'll be having a public meeting this Friday at noon. It'll be right here, and you can watch it online. It's for our new MS4 permit. It's a requirement that we have it and we do these meetings, and we give this information to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Go ahead.
We make time, and so this last year we added, in this year's budget, we added another inspector, and he does right-of-way inspections, and he also does stormwater, and also our engineers go out and do this. But it takes a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. And this is just one permit that we have, and we have multiple permits with the state. But yes, it's hard to do. Once we get up and running, it's over a 5-year period, we gotta do 60%, so the burden comes down, but it's this first year, we have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, go ahead.
So do the contractors that take the mud out of the area that they're on the streets, do they know about this, that, you know, this is gonna hamper them some, or they're going, you know, somebody's gonna come and say, hey, can't be doing that anymore?
This actually has been going on for many, many years, and so it's in all their plans. And so the question is, do they maintain it? Do they keep the erosion control up? Do they keep the mud off the tires? Do they keep the construction entrance clear? When it rains, do they just wait a day before doing something? Do they wash tires? So they know about it. It's just a question of whether they're willing to do it. So one of the things that we have on our permits is we have a thing called a mud fee. So like every house in the subdivision has to pay the $500 mud fee. If they don't clean it up when we go out there, we'll go clean it up for them, charge them whatever it costs, then they have to refund the mud fee.
So this has been going on, but it's becoming more and more.
More and more, it grows more and more. The DNR every year adds more and more regulations to us.
Do you do streams that go through private property, and do you count the outflows that come from private citizens?
Yeah, so we're walking it depends what you call a stream. There's stream swales, they classify what the streams are. And if it's one of the types of streams we have to watch out for, then we'll walk them all. It doesn't matter who owns them.
Okay.
We're responsible for all outfalls.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Item F, I-49 widening.
So I wanted to bring you up to date on I-49 widening. A lot of you know that I've been working on this for about 4 years, depending on where the places I worked. Both places, I have worked very hard to try to get I-49 widened and the Route 58 bridge widened also. We have applied over the last 2 years for, last year is called a build grant, and we submitted an application to the feds for a build grant. That would have been $30 million or $25 million from the feds. Raymore passed a bond issuance for $3 million, and the county also has $3 million that they were going to match with it. So we could actually widen I-49 from 155th Street down to North Cass to 6 lanes. Last year, we did not receive the award. There are many, many projects in there. We were highly rated, but not very highly rated, or recommended, but not very highly recommended. So we were not selected as one of the recipients. We were very close, but we didn't receive it. So this year is a different president, a different administration, a different viewpoint on how to spend the money. This year they changed it. We did submit another application, but the application was based on racial equality, environmental justice, persistent poverty, and those categories. It was not basically on highway type work. So where before 80% of the jobs were highway jobs, 0 jobs were selected this time that affected highways. And so all the money went to urban areas to do basically streetscapes, and there's a few railroad jobs in it, but no highway jobs were selected. So under the current administration and the current mood in Washington, D.C., there is no money through their program to do that type of work. So we will not probably submit for the next 3 years until something changes because of the way they perceive it. But one of the things that is happening is that in the bill that they passed for infrastructure, there is money that is being given to the state for highways. And so the state is conducting what they call high priority unfunded needs public meetings. And they're conducting these meetings throughout the state in order to find out what the public thinks are needs. The meeting for the Kansas City area will be held at MARC, that's Mid-America Regional Council, at 600 Broadway, Suite 200 in downtown Kansas City. It's basically 6th and Broadway downtown. It's next Tuesday from 4 to 6. They're opening their building. MARC is opening the building for MARC to have people come in and tell MoDOT what they think the high priority needs to be. Now, just to show you where we're at, is that this is what MoDOT's high priority list has been. This comes right from MoDOT's webpage. And they have, the citizens have told MoDOT, taking care of the system is the most important thing that they want done. So they have put all their money over the last few years into taking care of the system and not any expansion. And so these are their 6 buckets, they call it. And they're improved bridge conditions, improved road conditions, MoDOT maintenance and operation money, invest in economic growth, major interstate construction. Now, I just want to point out to you, I didn't create this slide, MoDOT did. So if you look at the 3 interstates that are listed there, where is that intersection of those 3 interstates? I didn't tell you that. And then the last one is improved multimodal transportation options. And so MoDOT has what they call a 3-tier system for identifying what they're going to work on. Their top tier, Tier 1, unfunded road and bridge needs, as of November 2021, if you look at the Kansas City District, in the urban area, it only lists 1 project, and that's I-70 at $100 million. It's I-70 from downtown to 435. That is their high priority, and that's the only job that's going to be done in the Kansas City District, in the Tier 1. Now in Tier 2, you think, well, we got to be in Tier 2, right? Tier 2 lists all the other I-70 corridor from 435 to 470. That's the next section at another $90 million. And then pavement reconstruction. And then they just added this bottom one, I-29, I-34 corridor improvements, where they're trying to get that one into it. After that, it goes into category Tier 3, which they don't even publish, but that's where I-49 is. It's unfunded in Tier 3. And so at this meeting, it's important that citizens, council people, people from the hospital, people from the school district, people from businesses who want to see something done on I-49, attend the meeting and say, our number 1 priority is I-49. The more people can go down there and they hear I-49, 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 the more they get the idea that this is a top priority. I can tell you from working at MoDOT that up in Hannibal, they wanted it 4-laned north of Hannibal. They weren't going to get it. The town, the community went and said over and over at commission meetings, at public meetings, over and over and over again. You kept hearing it. They went on TV. They did lots of stuff to get the attention to them. And finally, they built the 4 lanes up there because the squeaky wheel in the end gets the grease. And so this is an opportunity for people to tell MoDOT that this is important, that we need to get this fixed. I think it's one of the most important things that they could be doing right now in the urban area. One of the things that we submitted in our applications is the future, the 20 years in the future, using their calculations they require to use, the fatalities would be reduced by almost 60%. You know, in the last 4 years, there was 4 fatalities out there in that backup. Disabling injuries would reduce from 52 to 27, a 50% reduction. Minor injuries would be reduced by 8%. Property damage only, that's where people basically just drive off the road from inattention. There'd be a 40% drop. There'd be 34% drop in accidents. And this is one of their categories, is accidents and economic development. These are 2 things we're always trying to do, and that's why it's important to do it. This is a picture which, I mean, everyone here is familiar. This is actually a picture in Grandview, but the top of it's Blue Ridge going all the way through Grandview. You see that backup. This is almost a daily occurrence out there, and everybody knows it. We've all lived it. We've all gotten stuck in it, and we all know about it. And as Jordan said in her office, I was telling her what I was going to talk about this. She goes, "You're very passionate about this," and I have worked very hard to try to get this. I have talked to more U.S. senators, U.S. representatives, governor's office, all different people to try to get funding for this roadway. And so this is an opportunity for us as a community. And it's not just Belton alone. It's got to be Belton, Raymore, Peculiar, Harrisonville, Northern Cass County, all Cass County show up and say, this is important to us and we really need this. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about that.
Go ahead.
Do they ever compensate any data on the number of cars, in our cases, cars and trucks that use that particular one to make a determination? Because it's unbelievable how many cars and trucks are going down through that area.
Well, one of the things is I've brought the attention to the local people at MoDOT about it, and they didn't understand how bad it was until I started scheduling meetings at 4 o'clock here, and they started getting stuck in the traffic. And as they got
Smart
stuck
move.
more
Smart
and
move.
more and more, they started saying, hey, you know, this is a problem down here.
Oh, really?
And it's really brought to their attention. And it was a trick. I mean, when Senator Blunt was going to meet with, his office was going to meet with us, I scheduled it at 4:30, and they were late because they were stuck. And unfortunately, there was an accident heading northbound as they left. They got stuck again, and they told us they spent about 2 to 3 hours stuck in traffic just getting to and from Belton and Raymore. So
We don't have any data though about.
I've got all the traffic counts. We've got all that. MoDOT has all that. It's just a question of getting us pushed up the priority list.
Go ahead.
Greg, will you be attending? Will someone from Belton be there?
I will absolutely be there. I encourage every one of you who can be there to go.
And Raymore, do you think?
Yeah, I'm meeting with them to try to make sure that they all show up too. I'm trying to coordinate with all the towns.
Go ahead.
Should we get buses together?
No, I'm not going to tell you that.
All right, I'll just float that out there as a thought.
And I'll remind you that when they did a survey about 2-3 years ago, when they did a call for projects, Belton and Raymore each posted once on Facebook about, hey, you know, you can put your input into this. Well, after about 3 weeks, 90% of the comments that Mark got was about this project. And they actually called me up and said, Greg, whatever you're doing, stop doing it. We don't want to get any more calls from you guys. And I said, we made one post. I was working at Raymore at the time. We made one post. Belton made one post. And it, you know how Facebook is. It just goes off to the top or bottom if you want to look at it. But they got so many calls. They said, please stop. And I said, I can't stop it. This is that important to people down here.
How do we need to get that going? Can we?
Well, we definitely need to make a Facebook post and hope that people come, and if you all would invite people and if you would come, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
And
Any
it
other?
won't take, you won't have to be there the whole entire 2 hours. You'll just have to come, put your,
I don't know if they're going to do dots or comments, cards, or how they're going to do it. Just show up, give your feedback, and then you can leave.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. I'm sure you're still up. G, Speaker Avenue parking.
Speaker Avenue. Speaker Avenue is just north of 163rd Street by Harris. And we've gotten complaints in this area. And as you can tell by the picture, what happens is it's a narrow road and people park on both sides, then you can't drive down the middle. You can't get a school bus through it, and you have problems through there. And so they've asked us if we could restrict parking on the side that the mailboxes are on. I believe that's the east side. And that way people can park on one side of the road and you can still travel on the other side of the road. We've gone out and seen the same sort of thing, and we're in agreement to try to do that. And this would be in Speaker between 160th to 162nd Street. I have a funny feeling once we do this, we may get requests from other blocks in the area to do the same sort of thing. And I've talked to the chief about it, and we're both in concurrence that this is a good thing to do.
That sounds good to me. What do you need from us? Anything?
it will be an ordinance.
It'd be an ordinance, okay.
Greg,
Any
we-
questions? Go ahead.
We did do an entire subdivision in Belray that way at one point.
Right.
You can make a clean sweep.
And we've done that, places where we've done every street. We're kind of do this as needed basis.
Anybody else? H, wastewater fund projects.
So we have two contracts that will be coming to you at the next meeting. One is for string bank stabilization. Basically, people don't know what that really means, but if you look at the upper right-hand corner, that picture, you'll see our pipe. That's a sewer pipe. You're not supposed to see that. That's supposed to be buried. But the creek over time has eroded the ground around it and exposed the pipe. And so we need to get that pipe buried back in the ground by raising the creek back up and then putting riprap over it so it prevents it from happening again. That's behind our maintenance building. The one in the upper left-hand corner, that is a sewer pipe, but it's encased in concrete. That's right by Chipotle. So if you ever go to Chipotle to eat, if you look up back toward 58, you'll see that sticking out of the ground. You probably go, what is that? That's actually a sewer pipe that's exposed. And so we're going to probably have to go all the way back up to the culvert underneath 58, raise it up so the water actually goes over the top of that and not underneath it, because it's not supposed to be exposed. The one on the center bottom, on the right side of the creek, you'll see a bunch of concrete in there. And that concrete is covering up another exposed sewer pipe. And that sewer pipe is actually in Oak Hill, and then it goes into the property to the north of Oak Hill, and where there's a single house. Now this is on North Scott, just south of 155th Street. And so that particular location, we don't think we're going to be able to get that one back inside, out of the creek. We may have to move the location of that sewer. So we have to move that location of that sewer. We may have to go through Oak Hill Mobile Home Park and then through the property to the north and move that line. What we're doing here is we're going to hire an engineering company to actually study it and figure out how we can fix these pipes and get this corrected. The next one is our I&I, and we've talked about that before, inflow and infiltration. This is where stormwater is getting into our sewers, sanitary sewers, which causes backup. So we're going to do, we did one project, and now we're going to hire a company. We've done a bunch of manholes, and now we're going to do the actual lines, because these are actual sanitary lines, and this is where the water leaks through the joints. And so we go through and line the inside of them to prevent it from leaking. So that stops the water going and stops the backups in people's homes. So you'll be seeing a contract at our next council meeting to develop a contract to engineer it and inspect that project. Happy to answer any questions you have on those.
Any questions? Seeing none. Item I, emergency sanitary repair, sewer repair for fire station number 2.
So in, fire station number 2 had a sewer problem. We sent a camera down to try to see what it was. The pipe was sticking out from the, well, if you look at this picture, the green pipe that's going down in, and the gentleman working there is actually standing on the other pipe. The pipe actually went into the other pipe, and so we went through and tried to clip the end of the plastic, but it broke when he did it. So we had to go through as an emergency repair and dig all the way down. It was about 20-some feet deep. You can see all the shoring that they had set up. And they had to go through and pull the pipe out and repair it and put a new connection in. And so we had to do that as an emergency, and that contract is in the agenda, I believe, tonight to pay for that repair.
Any questions? Seeing none, I think you're done for a while.
I'm done tonight.
Item J, UMKC Clinical Partner.
This is a contract to allow paramedic students to come right along on our ambulances to help complete their clinical needs to get their license. It's something that we've done with other schools. We currently do it with MCC as well as CJC. And so we're wanting to add UMKC because we're going to start sending some of our folks there for paramedic school, and it allows them to do some clinicals on our own ambulances. So it's very, very informal. It's just laying out that program and the requirements for us and the requirements for them. So works very well as a recruiting tool too, because it's a built-in ride-along program. We get to evaluate people and see if we'd like to hire them.
Any questions? Seeing none, item K, Senior Center Flooring Project.
There is an ordinance on the agenda this evening to approve a contract for services with Heron Contracting to provide Belton Senior Center facility improvements. In May of 2021, the city was informed by Mid-America Regional Council that we had received an additional grant for money for the Belton Senior Center specifically for facility improvements. In June of 2021, an RFP was published for a scope of services for floor replacement and other general facility upgrades. In the fiscal 2022 budget, it has money for the administrative capital outlay for the senior center facility. The ordinance tonight approves the contract for service with Heron and approves a budget amendment to cover the cost of the project.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Oh, did they check for asbestos, or have you checked for asbestos? Because old tile will have asbestos, plus the mastic underneath it has asbestos.
We did speak with Heron about that, and they will not be removing any of the current flooring
Oh, so you're going over
on
it.
top.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Item L, overhead allocation cost study. Excuse me.
Basically, what I want to talk to you guys about tonight is to see if you're interested in hiring a consultant to do an overhead allocation cost study. So currently, the way that we do our overhead allocation costs, we've been doing it the same way for 30 years. In fiscal year 1991, that was the year that they changed the way that the overhead allocation was being calculated, and we've just been following that since then. I actually gave you all a copy of the part in the budget document where it talks about how the new calculation was done. And so I thought it was kind of interesting. Back then, the general fund was paying 55% of the total overhead costs, and in fiscal year 2021, that budget general fund is actually paying 58%. Back then, the water fund was paying 31%, and this last year it was only 22%. The sewer fund back then, 30 years ago, was paying 7%, and now that has increased to 16% over 30 years. The street fund was paying 7%, and that has decreased to 3%. And I just thought it was very interesting. I did reach out to Baker Tilly to ask them to provide a cost estimate, and they think that they can do it for $24,000. I reached out to Baker Tilly. Patrick was telling me that one of his other clients, they hired Baker Tilly to do that. And I am just curious if you guys are interested in doing that this year, or if you would like to include it in next year's budget. Just an option.
Go ahead.
I don't know if we need a study, I just think it needs to be revised. If they're gonna help us revise it, then yes. I'd also like to throw the Public Works billing in there also, and, I call that overhead allocation too. You call it something different, but to me it's the same. So if we can throw the Public Works billing in there and try to figure out how we can solve that issue with the water and sewer funds, then yes, I'd be all in favor of it.
Go ahead.
What all would the cost study go through, look at for us? What would it give us for that amount?
So it will look at every single administrative cost. It will look at anything that's not directly related to a service, and it will allocate those. So currently, there are some funds that aren't included. One of those would be the hotel motel tax fund. Another one is the solid waste disposal fund. So they will basically take every single administrative cost in the general fund, and they will allocate that to every single fund that provides to the services that every single fund provides. And they will go through and they will actually look at, right now, the calculation is easy. It's based on revenues. What they're going to do is it will have to be the way they would do it. They would be revising it and updating it every year. And they're going to be saying, how much time did you spend on the sewer fund? How much of your time was spent on the water fund? I can see it will take more time. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it will be much more detailed, and I'm not quite sure that the result will be vastly different. but it's just a different way to do it.
It'd be a more accurate accounting of what we're doing instead of
What-
just
Yes.
taking this to there and
And
putting
what
it there.
he told me is that, like, their method would, they'll have the documentation for every single thing that they do, or that we're doing, and so in the case of, any complaint or anyone looking, like, all the documentation will be there, so, to back up what is being done.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is their method. They're going to tell us what they think, how it should be done. We currently have a method that we've been doing for 30-some years. So, how many methods are out there? I mean,
There are lots of different methods that can be done. I don't think it's a bad idea to look at a different method to see, but yes, you're exactly right. There's multiple different methods that can be used. There's nothing out there that says that you have to use one method over another method. There's not, as long as it's reasonable, and I think the one that we have been doing the last 30 years is definitely reasonable. But it just seems, I had a lot of feedback that there was a lot of interest in looking at possibly doing it in a different way. And so I'm bringing this question to you if you guys are ready to do that now, or if you want to wait till next year, like whatever you feel comfortable with.
Go ahead.
I have no problem looking at it. I mean, there are so many methods out there.
There are.
This has been a kind of a bone of contention for many, many years, actually. I think the little clarification for everybody concerned about what goes where and that kind of thing would clarify and help people understand what things are. And it looks to me like, I'm sure back here in 1987, they didn't ever do this, so it's probably a way past time to look at this and see what would need to be done. So I'm all in favor of now rather than later.
Go ahead.
Did the state auditor chime in about their favorite method?
They don't have a favorite method. They're going to say that I'm guessing that they'll say, there's nothing that says you can do it the way that you're doing it now, but there's also nothing that says that you can't do it the way that you're doing it now. So
Okay.
it's just an opinion, and everybody has one.
Go ahead.
You had said something about every year. So then would that 24,000 be every year?
It depends. I think once they do the initial work, it would be a lesser fee. But it was interesting when I talked to him about his proposal. He basically said, well, yeah, you have to update it every year. So I don't think that it would take the entire $24,000 because it would be less time once they know all the buckets that the different expenses. So it would probably be a lot less. And possibly you could end up doing it
Every 2 or 3 years.
every
'Cause
2
we've
years,
done it
every 5 years.
Every 30 years now, so.
Every 30. So,
Anybody else? Is everybody okay with doing this study now?
okay, I'll bring a resolution to you at the next meeting. And then the next item that I wanted to talk about was the possibility, the interest of the council to put use tax on the ballot in April. The first thing I should just tell you all is that a use tax is done on purchases from out-of-state businesses that are delivered to a Belton address. It basically has those purchases being taxed as an item, the same as an item that is purchased in a store in Belton. And it's one or the other, use tax or sales tax. It's never both. And so a purchase would never be taxed twice. Right now, both the state of Missouri and Cass County have a use tax, but the city does not. So if you are paying use tax now to the state of Missouri or Cass County, you would pay the use tax to Belton also if voters would approve that. So if you're not paying use tax now, you wouldn't pay use tax if the citizens approved a use tax here. The other thing is I was able to, well, Stephanie found it, a report on the Department of Revenue's website where we could actually go in and look to see how much use tax we would have generated. This is by calendar year, but in 2012, it would have only been $491,000, but in 2020, it would have been $1.8 million. 1.8. And the reason that that's happening is you have a lot of people that are purchasing more and more online. And so they're not, before when people were driving to the stores, they were going in and they were paying sales tax. Now, when they're making those purchases online, maybe they're not driving to the stores, but we still have the delivery trucks that are coming in and using our infrastructure, using our services, and we're not getting revenues from that. And so our sales tax revenue is growing. It's not growing it's only growing because we're getting new businesses. If we weren't having new businesses, our sales tax revenue would not be growing, because more and more people are shifting to online sales.
Go ahead.
Is the rate the same, Sheila, for sales tax versus use tax?
Yes.
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same. If the sales tax rate ever increases, use tax would automatically increase. If the sales tax rate decreased, the use tax automatically decreases.
One of the things you told us in the past when we talked about the use tax was a fluctuation that could happen. When you looked at that 2012 to 2020, are you seeing where 1 year is 1.8 and 1 year is 900, or has it always been growing?
So there was 1 year that the reason that it fluctuates is because when somebody's building like a construction project, typically people will ship those construction supplies in from out of state. And so whenever you have a lot of construction and new development that is going on in your city, your use tax is going to typically be higher. And so there's 1 year from 2016 to 2017 where it decreased. We've had a lot of projects going on in the last few years, but in 2017 it was $840,000 that year, and then in 2018 it jumped up to 1.4 million, and then in 2019 it jumped up to 1.5, and in 2020 it was 1.8.
Off the top of your head, how much sales tax did we generate in our community in 2020 total?
Oh my goodness, I
Is it
don't
4
even
million?
guess. I don't want to guess.
No.
Sorry.
I thought you had that number in your head.
Don't. Sorry.
Okay.
Any other? Go ahead.
I know on the water task force that we discussed the use tax possibility, and one of the things that we really kind of focused on was that there needs to be a lot of education on it, but that we also have these other two things that are possibly going to be on the ballot in April, and that we were really concerned about being able to educate fairly on all of those things, and that we didn't want to end up losing use tax because we're doing two others, or losing one of the other two and getting use tax. So I know that we had just kind of discussed the possibility of waiting on that, even though it is, I think, something that we do want.
You're correct in that thinking. My thought after thinking about this for a while is, the citizens during the campaign and the election, they wanted us to do stuff. They wanted us to get stuff done. And I think if we don't do this now, obviously we can do it later on down the road, but I think if we don't do it now, they're going to say, well, why haven't you done this, this, and this? So it would be my thought to put this on the ballot and let them tell us yes or no, That's my thought. I think we need to, and me and Sheila have been talking about this, about and that's why I would like to see, can we get some proposed ballot language and move forward with that so we know what will the ballot language will be, so we know how to campaign and market this. Go ahead.
I'm with you, Mayor. I think we go for it all. I mean, we got to do infrastructure improvements. We got to do road improvements. We got to keep
road
doing the
maintenance.
stuff that we're doing. The roads are no tax, the revenue bonds are no tax, so we're extending a 0.5-cent sales tax, but that's coming out of, is that the 27 tax? It ends in 2027?
Yeah, for the 0.5-cent capital improvement sales tax.
20.
And were you doing that to help fund the water infrastructure? But, I mean, I think if we use a use tax for infrastructure improvements for the community, either it be for roads or water or sewer or stormwater, I mean, I think it's one of those that we can use that funds to generate and improve our community, and that's what we're asked to do all the time. If you live in the older communities, we have issues and we got to fix them, so this is a good way of doing it. So, but I think Councilwoman Kraft is right. We just got to get out and educate. And you know, my first question to anybody would be like, to me, I don't buy anything off the internet, so I already pay the sales tax. And I just think that's the thing that we got to let people know. If you're buying everything in our community already, use tax is not going to affect you. So I just think, but we got to pay for those trucks driving on our road somehow. So
I agree. Go ahead.
My only question is, do you feel we have the resources to really be able to educate fairly on all three of those? Or is it going to stress staff out trying to get information out?
I don't think we'll be stressed out. We've kind of already been talking about it, planning it, and we can handle it.
And I believe it'll be some more work on our behalf as well.
Yes,
I think they
we
had a
need
nice-
council to to help.
Absolutely.
We can educate. Council can take a position.
I mean, I think you guys put out a nice trifold a couple years ago on the stormwater and the street improvements, and I think, I don't remember what it passed by, but I think it passed pretty easily. I mean, so I do think education is a key, and I think the 9 of us also have to get out there and help educate.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Item N, Southview Commerce Center Burn Compliance Final Development Plan.
Mayor Larkey, members of the council, let me begin with just a little bit of a history, chronology of the Southview Commerce Center. The original rezoning and preliminary development plan for Southview was approved by the City Council in June of 2018. So that set up the preliminary plan and the vision for redevelopment of the former Southview Golf Course. There were subsequent final development plans for the 3 buildings. Building 1, the final development plan was reviewed by the Planning Commission in October 2018. Building 2, the final development plan was reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission in March of 2019. And Building 3 was reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission in July 2020. Now, each one of those final development plans that was reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission included a landscape and a topographical berm plan that was part of those final approvals. So now, as the project moves towards completion, we ask Northpoint to prepare as-built drawings of the berms for final review. The as-built drawings were distributed to you this evening. This is 7 pages of topographical information, and I'm sorry we didn't have an opportunity to get that to you sooner. And let me do say that we don't expect you to dive into this, assimilate this, and understand all the data points on here. But I invite you certainly to look at it and call me if you have any questions, and I'll do my very best to answer those questions. But it was my responsibility to review this as-built drawing and compare it to the final development plan. So we didn't distribute these to you because of the sheer size of that document. That's the final development plan for Building 3. And if we reduce that, the topography would be so small you couldn't read it. But it was my responsibility to compare the as-built drawings with this final development plan. And I completed that review, And I will conclude and state that the as-built drawings do meet all the berm requirements and topographical information that was called out on that final development plan. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have about the as-built drawings or the original approved plan.
Go ahead.
Dave, you said they meet. Do they ever exceed it?
Yes, they do, yeah.
That's what I wanted to know, if they're, because I thought we were asking them to go back and actually look at certain areas to do more in a certain area than what was actually approved. So that's why I wanted to do, see if it was actually exceeding it in some areas also.
Oh, yes, sir. Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Well, I compliment Dave. I was able to meet with him earlier today, and yes, indeed, the as-built do compare favorably and sometimes exceed the development plans. I think the disconnect for some of the residents in the area is that they either weren't at the planning meetings or they didn't have access to the final development plans, at least electronically, or know which meetings to come to, or I don't think the city council had and I wasn't on it at the time, but I don't think they had a chance to see those fully developed plans that's on Dave's right. So, yes, South Point or Northpoint Development did meet the berm requirements as specified in their final development plans. However, most people, including me and the people in the community, were presented with these plans which showed that from their backyards, if they lived on Allen or lived on White or 157th, would their line of vision over the berm would never see a truck. And yet, with a 10-foot berm, that isn't always the case. So the residents, maybe not technically, but somewhat understandably, are still concerned about the fact that the berms and combination of berms plus some fences plus some trees are still not, that combination is still not stopping their view of trucks. In fact, I was showing Dave today that in certain instances, and again, over the top of a 10-foot berm, you can stand in your backyard and you can see the surface of the parking lot or the street or the road that goes between the houses and the, or parallels between the houses on Allen Avenue and the Northpoint Development Buildings 1, 2, and 3. And I guess finally, just so it isn't missed, this is only for, I say only, is only for buildings 1, 2, and 3. Buildings 4 isn't even there yet, so the berms for that will be, I imagine Dave will approve those or look at those after building 4 and its berms are completed.
Anybody else? I will add that I met with Dave about this, and I went over with this extensively with him, and Northpoint did build according to the document that was passed in 2018 by the previous council. So just for information that I did meet with Dave and we did go over it. So anybody else? Item O, Southview Commerce Center Building 4.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. On tonight's agenda, on the regular agenda, item E is an ordinance authorizing the Chapter 100 bond documents for building number 4. And this is consistent with the issuance of the bonds for buildings 1 through 3 and the applicable development agreement. The bond documents implement the tax abatement previously approved by City Council on April 13th, 2021, after consideration of comments from the affected taxing jurisdictions on March 30th, 2021. This is the mechanism that is used to transfer the title to the city. Northpoint will make payments in lieu of taxes for distribution to the taxing jurisdictions. We do have Brett Powell here from Northpoint tonight, and also Sid Douglas is present. He is the city's economic development attorney, and I am happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions? Seeing none at this time. Item P, Chapter 353, Old Town Belton, 324 Main Street.
Okay. I just wanted to take a moment to inform you that the Old Town Belton Redevelopment Corporation did meet again and recommended approval for the 8th application for the redevelopment area. This application is for 324 Main Street, which is the original Bank of Belton on Main Street, and this is our largest project to date, and will have a total investment value of $368,000. The estimated abated taxes for all of the jurisdictions for year one would be $8,129, and the estimated abated taxes for the school district for year one would be $5,302. And the estimated abated taxes for the city for year one would be $2,003. This building has sat vacant for almost a decade and will now be home to Luke's Barbecue. Bringing a new restaurant to Main Street is pivotal. It's something that everybody is happy in talking about, everybody that I've talked to anyway. And I do want to let council know that this building was completely down to the studs. I mean, it was a shell of a building. But for this Chapter 353 incentive policy, I don't know that this particular project would be occurring. But this item, just wanted to let you know, will be coming before you for first reading on December 14th.
Any questions? Seeing none, I will adjourn the work session and we're going to take a 5-minute recess. 23. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance is not going to be by you, it's going to be by these two young gentlemen right over here.
Good deal.
You guys are on, you ready? Thank you.
Good job.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Larkey,
Here.
Councilmember Savage, Councilmember Powell,
Here.
Councilmember Trutzel,
Here.
Councilmember Kraft,
Here.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Goff,
Present?
Councilmember Lawson,
Here.
Councilmember Peak.
Here.
We have a quorum. Personal appearances. You,
I can set the timer for you.
okay. Steve Hackett. You got 5 minutes, and remember this is an open meeting, but not an open forum.
Okay. I've already been warned by my wife, so I don't go to jail tonight.
Turn that on and tell us who you are and where you live.
Oh, it's on.
Okay, all right.
All right, my name's Steve Hackett. I live at 15810 Allen Avenue here in Belton, Missouri. Kind of going back to the business meeting on the berm compliance that they're talking about. Councilman Member Powell and the mayor have both been to my house. They've seen the inadequacy of the berm. They've seen, I know Councilman Powell's been out at night and can see the lights from their development shining on the back of our houses. We really haven't asked for a lot the whole time this has been going on, except for the council to kind of take care of us a little bit. It shouldn't be that hard. I've spoken to people from Northpoint. I get all kinds of off of them, and generally it's all lies. I've asked about shades. We'll get back to you. Well, that's been, oh gee, I don't know, 2 months ago. I haven't heard anything. I like to sit in my backyard at night. I like it when the summer's nice. In the fall, we like to sit out there and have a fire, build a fire pit so we can have a fire and enjoy ourselves. But you got to watch where you're sitting or you got lights in your eyes. Now, one suggestion I would make for them is they need to hire an engineer that can read height. Because I was told that my neighbor got a fence and a higher berm because his house sets higher than mine. But yet I can sit in my bedroom and look out the window and look down on his roof. So it would behoove the council to kind of stay after these people and maybe come out once in a while, even if it's not your district, and have a look at it. I've heard in council meetings about how great they are. The employees don't care. Any place they've built anything, everybody hates them. Now, maybe their employees like working there, but the people that live around them don't care for them one bit. And I think, you know, it wouldn't hurt to just drive down the street and have a look. I'm fairly lucky. The people at the south end of Allen have absolutely no protection from that place whatsoever. They got nothing. You know, now I was told that, well, when they build this, you'll only be able to see the top third of the building. I have a deck on the back of my house that's this high. I walk out on that deck, I can see all the way to the base of building 3. We were told we'd never be able to see trucks. You can see them driving up and down there all the time. We were told they won't come down our street. Well, they do that quite often too. So, you know, I think we're not asking for a lot. You know, the people that live on Allen just want a little protection from this place. I want to be able to enjoy my yard. I sit in my house at night, I got to pull shades and everything else. Why? Because there's light coming in my windows from the back of that building. And there was somebody at the council one time talked about what good neighbors they are. Well, they don't live by them. when I've got to call the city 2 or 3 times a summer just to get them to mow their grass because I think the first time they mowed this year was June. I get tired of mowing my backyard and having to run out rats, snakes, and whatever else because they're coming in out of this high grass. You know, they talk about planting trees. Well, they got little bitty dinky bushes that are this freaking high. There's no protection there. Like I said, we're not asking a lot. I'm not stupid enough to think that
There's
that
1
land
minute
was
left.
never going to be developed. But, you know, just kind of take care of the people that live in your city. That's all we're asking. And you might remind some of the people that work here that they're public servants. They work for the city, that you're a public servant. I worked for MoDOT for 30 years. I get it. But they can at least be polite to you when you call up and not be rude. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8, consent agenda. Did I do the air first, or?
Was there just going to be one speaking this evening?
Yes, just one, yeah.
Yes, please
Yeah.
read that.
All right, before we make this motion, we have a Scribner's error that needs to be corrected on item A, motion to approve the minutes of November 9th, 2021 council meeting. It should be noted that Councilmember Powell abstained from the vote on Resolution 2021-83, and the minutes have been updated to reflect this. So, with that, one motion, non-debatable, to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for the item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Present. Second.
We have 2 motions and 2 seconds.
Do we need to have as amended on that?
No, it's fine.
No, it's just a Scribner's error.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Regular agenda, a motion approving the final reading of Bill 2021-68 as amended.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2022 adopted city budget for the purpose of appropriating ARPA funds received by the city.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Powell,
Yes.
Clark,
Aye.
Goff,
Aye.
Peak. Aye. Kraft.
Aye.
Motion carries. B, a motion approving the final reading of Bill 2021-69.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri designating ward boundaries within the City of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Powell,
Yes.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Kraft,
Aye.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Lawson,
Yes.
Clark,
Aye.
Goff,
Aye.
Peak.
Motion carries. C, a motion approving the final reading of Bill 2021-70.
An ordinance amending sections 4, 12-4B1, 20-2A, 26-54, 28-5B, 32-14E, and 36-108-2 of the Unified Development Code to clarify existing standards and create new regulations deemed necessary to improve the effectiveness of the code.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Peak. Aye. Clark,
Aye.
Kraft,
Aye.
Goff,
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Aye. Motion carries. D, a motion approving the final reading of Bill 2021-71 as amended.
An ordinance amending Chapter 13, Article 9 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Belton, Missouri by establishing Division 7, Utility Vehicles, Recreational Off-Highway Vehicles, and Golf Carts, regulating the use of certain special vehicles in the City of Belton, Missouri, and amending Chapter 13, Article 9, Division 4, Safety Helmets required to conform to changes set out in House Bill 1963.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do.
Go ahead.
first of all, I commend the positive changes that Chief Lyons put into the proposed ordinance. I'm still a little, I guess, confused why certain of the vehicles require seat belts, but golf carts don't. Golf carts obviously on a golf course don't, but according to the CFR Title 49, which is a federal standard, I think we adhere to federal standards. I don't know, maybe we don't. It says that for golf carts that are on public streets and are going less than 25 miles an hour, then they're supposed to have either Type 1 or Type 2 seat belt assemblies. So I'm just wondering why we still don't have anything, like I mentioned last time, that has to do with seat belts for golf carts.
We provided the research, and we believe that that can be handled. The city council can issue a stronger adherence, a mandatory adherence to under state statute, and so we could add that if you wanted. We felt we still could enforce it based upon state statute, though.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that the state requires it, it's the federal government requiring it. But and maybe that's the same thing that you're saying, that we could point to this standard but I doubt if we would, unless there was a major accident, point to anybody and say that's unsafe to be driving down the road at 20 miles an hour with a kid that's 5 years old, even if he has a helmet and no seatbelt.
When we looked up the issue, any vehicle that is on the roadway classifies as a motor vehicle. So a golf cart, UTV, an off-road vehicle, they would all qualify as a motor vehicle under state law, and therefore they would have to wear a seatbelt.
Okay, then we specifically mentioned it under utility vehicles and recreational, but not under golf carts. I don't know. I don't want to be a pain in the rear end. I'm just wondering why we left it out, particularly since it seems to conflict with a federal standard. But I would propose adding that for golf carts also. Maybe I need to make a sub-motion or something, I don't know.
So,
Yes, what provision of the ordinance are you specifically looking to amend? What?
Well, he's divided it really concisely in three different areas: utility vehicles, recreational vehicles, and golf carts. And the first two say seat belts, and the third one doesn't say seat belts, even though Title 49 CFR 571.500 says for low-speed vehicles on public roads you need to have seat belts. So I'm just wondering, and Chief Lyons is right, they all probably do require seat belts if they're on a public road. Maybe that is the state standard, not a state standard about golf carts, but a state standard about any vehicle being on a public road. But then why do we specifically mention it under utility vehicles and recreational vehicles and not under golf carts?
Yeah, I'm not sure why that would occur. Just looking at that federal law for the first time, I'm not certain if for some reason golf carts fall under some exception to low-speed vehicles. But for the purpose of the motion, do you have a section because we don't have the ordinance, I don't have it in front of me because of the packet. But is there a specific section that
I'm
you would
just
like
wondering
to
if
add?
item D covers that, because it says operator of golf cart is required to obey all the same traffic laws as an operator of a motor vehicle and all the other applicable municipal ordinances.
Yes, I do believe that is what Chief Lyons has said.
Right,
It would make it applicable to all
I think
of
that
those.
would cover it.
Yes.
And that's under the golf cart.
So if, and you did, one thing you did, which is positive, you added something about inspections in here. And so if you inspected a golf cart that was on the road, or obviously had been on the road because it's not on a golf course, and it's in the QT parking lot, that that would be a violation if they didn't have a seatbelt? Or do you have to see them actually driving down the road without a seatbelt?
We would catch that on the inspection when we would actually register that with the
Okay.
city, and we would fail that golf cart if it didn't have a seatbelt.
Okay, okay. Well, okay. So I went down kind of a weird path, but, thank you.
All right, so you're saying you're not making a motion now because we think we have it covered?
Well, I think it's covered. I think it's, then if it's covered, if everything's covered by the state law, then, it's kind of overkill to mention it,
Okay.
under utility vehicles and recreational vehicle parts of the, proposed ordinance, but,
All right, I'm just
whatever, it's all covered.
I'm just making sure.
Okay.
Councilman Clark.
I guess my question to the Chief Lyons is who's gonna do the inspections?
Sorry about that. There would be police officers that would do that.
Are they coming to the residents to do that? Or is it up to the individual to take the vehicle to the police station?
It would be either or. We could handle it as a call for service, or we could actually have them come to the station.
I just wonder, because some of these people that might have something, they don't have a trailer to haul it there. I just don't want them driving on back roads to try to get to the police station, so I'm just trying
Yes.
to figure out how we're gonna do that.
Yeah, it would be either or, whatever's permissible for them to do.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Do we have a sense of like the volume of interest in this?
I do not
Okay.
know the interest in this. It was brought to me by other sources.
Okay. Just don't want to walk into making a bunch of work for you guys that you hadn't accounted for. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilman Go.
Well, as far as the interest in it, there are a lot of those that come to the winery all the time, and it's growing a lot. So people wanting, they talk about it all the time at the winery about the city or the county's rules and such. So I know they're looking to see what each town has and stuff. So something on file needs to be done.
Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Peak. Aye. Powell.
Yes.
Trutzel.
Aye.
Goff.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Aye.
Councilmember Kraft.
Aye.
Motion carries. E, a motion approving first reading of Bill 2021-72.
An ordinance authorizing the taxable industrial revenue bonds Northpoint Southview Industrial Building 4 LLC project, Series 2021, related to an industrial development project in the city, and authorizing the city to enter into certain agreements and take certain other actions.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any information that we need? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. F, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2021-73.
An ordinance approving the Sixth Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 414 Main Street project as redevelopment project 2021-6 and to authorize tax abatement as described therein.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do I go into the public hearing now or after they approve it?
Now.
A public hearing regarding the proposed Sixth Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan for redevelopment project 2021-6 pursuant to section 353.110.3 parentheses 2 RSMO. Public hearing is open. Anybody here to speak on Bill 2021-73? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And we have any more discussion on 2021-73? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please? Or, I'm sorry, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2021-74.
An ordinance approving the Seventh Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 511 Main Street project as Development Project 2021-7 and to authorize tax abatement as described therein.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. A public hearing regarding the proposed Seventh Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan for redevelopment project 2021-7 pursuant to section 353.110.3 parentheses 2 RSMO. Public hearing is open. Anybody have any comments on 2021-74? Seeing none, public hearing will be closed. All in favor? Or all opposed? Motion carries. H, a motion approving first reading of Bill 2021-75.
An ordinance calling an election to authorize the issuance of waterworks revenue bonds and extend the capital improvement sales tax in the city of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and 2 seconds. Any discussion?
6 seconds.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I, a motion approving first reading of Bill 2021-76.
An ordinance of the City of Belton amending Chapter 4, Animals, of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. J, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2021-77.
An ordinance approving the clinical affiliation agreement between the University of Missouri Kansas City School of Medicine and the City of Belton Fire Department.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. K, motion approving first reading of Bill 2021-78.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri amending Chapter 19, Streets, Sidewalks, Rights-of-Way, and Other Public Places of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Belton, Missouri to remove references to the Public Works Advisory Committee.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I move for a second reading on this one.
We have a motion for a second reading on 2021-78. And a second. Any discussion on the second reading? Go ahead.
The only reason I feel like, when I looked at this advisory committee, they all expired in 2020, so it seems like we haven't used it in a while, so we don't even have any current members on the board, so that's why I just, instead of bringing it back next week.
Understood. Any other discussion on the motion for a second reading? Roll call?
Let's
No,
push for it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving final reading of Bill 2021-78.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri amending Chapter 19, Streets, Sidewalks, Rights-of-Way, and Other Public Places of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Belton, Missouri to remove references to the Public Works Advisory Committee.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak. Aye. Trutzel.
Aye.
Goff.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Kraft.
Aye.
Motion carries. L, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2021-79.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2022 adopted city budget for the purpose of completing Belton Senior Center facility improvements and approving the contract for service with Heron Contracting LLC.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Only discussion I have, Andrea, is when is the work going to be done, and will the senior center be shut down for a period of time?
We're currently talking with Mid-America Regional Council right now about that. We don't have an anticipated start date because the product hasn't been ordered yet. But he said an estimated 10 to 12 weeks lead time, and then perhaps a week of potentially shutting down. But we're trying to provide services somewhere else during that week.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. M, a motion approving first reading of Bill 2021-80.
An ordinance approving a final plat for Bronson Manor, a tract of land in the northeast quarter of Section 7, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign the plat for recording with the Cass County Recorder's Office.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. N, a motion approving first reading of Bill 2021-81.
An ordinance approving a final plat for Tradition 6 plat, a tract of land in the southwest quarter of Section 18, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign the plat for recording with the Cass County Recorder's Office.
Present.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. City Council liaison reports.
Yeah, update from Parks is that it is budget time, and that's what they're working on. And I would like to give them a shout out for their involvement at the parade and Mayor's tree lighting on Saturday. It's nice to see them out and supporting, and the whole event was really great. So hats off to everyone involved.
Anybody else?
Oh, there wasn't any, other
Planning
comments.
Commission,
Planning
okay.
Commission.
Mayor's Communications, the only thing I got is I just want to thank everybody that put in all their time, energy, and effort into Mayor's Christmas tree lighting and Christmas on Main. I think it was a huge success. In all my days of being around Belton, I've never seen that many people on Main Street at one time, and it was pretty exciting. So I want to thank everybody. So that's all I have. City Manager's report.
Carolyn had something she wanted to say.
Yeah, I would just like to add on that Christmas on Main is not over. The mayor's Christmas tree lighting was the kickoff, and I concur. It was a wonderful night. And again, thanks to everybody who put in all the hard work. But just a shout out for what's coming up this weekend, December 3rd and 4th. There's going to be hay rides, food trucks, an outdoor movie, games, and a special appearance by the Gingerbread Man. And the train is also going to be up and running this weekend too. So just want to let everybody know there's more to come. Christmas on Main.
Thank you.
And then the only other thing I wanted to let you all know, I put a meeting schedule for 2022. There are 3 meetings that we won't have, one in September because of MML, one in November because of Thanksgiving, and one on December 27th because of the Christmas holiday. And just wanted you guys to have that schedule for your calendars.
Thank you. I think that's good. That way we can plan for the year instead of not knowing exactly. Thank you. Anything else?
And just, we are canceling the last meeting this December.
So, thank you. Communication from City Council. Go ahead.
Mayor, I just want to echo your guys from the city council side, from the Main Street merchants to Chamber of Commerce to BCPI, and to the mayor, to everybody else that was involved in Saturday night. It reminded me a lot of the stuff that happened 25 years ago when I was younger, and it was awesome to see all the people out there on Main Street. I thought the organizations that put that on did a wonderful job. Lions Club, shout out to them for cooking the hot dogs for us and serving them, and it's also good to see the fire and police department involved. Now, if we can just get Public Works next year to be engaged with this, we might be all right. But no, I thought it was a fun night, great weather. So just hats off to everybody involved.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
And also the contributions to the Belton Welfare Association, which was really Great.
I thank you for that, and I know we're gonna have another check, actually. We don't have that ready yet, but we will have another check for the Welfare Association when everything tallies up. So thank everybody for that too. So, anybody else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Well, wait, we gotta go to executive session. I would entertain a motion to enter an executive session, to discuss matters pertaining to legal actions according to Missouri State Statute 610.21.021.1, and to discuss matters pertaining to leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate according to Missouri Statute 610.021.2, and that the record be closed and the meeting adjourned from there.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilmember Goff,
Aye.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Peak, Kraft,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Lawson, Powell,
Yes?
Mayor Larkey.
Aye. Motion passes.